Welcome to the ThunderCast, your martial athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hudnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose.
Welcome back to another episode of the ThunderCast. This is Russ with my part-time co-host, Jed Horton. You're going to see a lot more of him. We are splitting the 5 things and around the herd into its own little thing, and Jed and I are going to be handling that for a while. KD and I will still be doing our usual stuff of the talking about the big news stories and the features and that sort of thing. So we're going to have 2 shorter episodes each week, and this is 5 things and around the herd with Jed. So we're going to get to that in just a second. But Jed, welcome back. You did an amazing job the first week that we've done this, and it's great to have you back on here.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Russ. The reviews came in; they weren't too scathing, so I think I get another week. So after we'll see how the review process goes after this week. So
I think the biggest ones that I read said if you get Russ off the screen, Jed does a much better job. I think that's what I saw.
I didn't see that one, but I'll have to go back and look. But
well, it was signed Jed's wife. So
right, there you go.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to today talk about 5 plus maybe a couple other things every herd fan needs to know this week. We're going to take you around the herd, which is going to be going over the results from all the contests from last week and preview what's coming up this week in every martial sport that is active right now. But first, let's talk a little bit about our title sponsor, 304carwreck.com, Leasure Oliver PLLC. They've been with us for, since before episode 1. And we look forward to having them on again. They will be doing both episodes that we will do each week. They are a title sponsor. And if you guys ever get in a fender bender, today we had a lot of wet weather, and you saw different traffic accidents on the interstate, at stop signs, all that stuff. Everybody knows somebody that gets in a car wreck. Make sure you're hitting up Leasure Oliver PLLC. And if you've been hurt in a wreck, you can find them at 304carwreck.com. Jed, we had, 11 things last week that we went over?
I think so. It was 5 plus 6. I really got my money's worth last week.
Yeah, well, we say this all the time. You would think going over that many things and having an episode every 7 days, there couldn't possibly be 5 things, but there are. And there's more than 5 things yet again this week. So here are 7 things every herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by IgniteLink, the Tri-State's premier IT management team. Number 1, Tariq Panholzer and Taimu Okiyoshi have been named to the College Cup All-Tournament team. Lineker Rodriguez dos Santos named first team All-American. Taimu Okiyoshi also named a second team All-American. Pretty big awards here. What do you got for us?
Yeah, we talked about these guys. I know we talked about, I believe, Okiyoshi last week, and Lineker Rodriguez dos Santos as well. I mean, those guys, what an impact they have had on this martial soccer program.
Definitely.
These awards are very well deserved, very well earned. And I'm glad to see that, as you know, we'll probably get into talking martial soccer further on in this episode, but definitely anchors to a program that's becoming I want to use the word blue blood here, becoming a blue blood in soccer. So these guys are a big component of that. So very well deserved and not surprising whatsoever.
It is definitely trending in that direction. We use the words elite. We use the words great, amazing, tremendous, consistent. But blue blood is definitely what it seems like it's coming up to. Let's see, 2019 through 2024 made the tournament every year. all but 2021. We made the final 16, and we have 2 now College Cup finals that we've made, with 1 star that we've won on there. So blue blood is definitely something we're trending towards. And we didn't mention him, or you didn't when I said this, but how about Tariq Panholzer with 3 goals in this College Cup tournament, and some big ones there in the final, what was it, final 2 games?
He was the lone goal scorer for Marshall in both games.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yep. Big deal. I mean, and if I'm not mistaken, I think these were his first goals scored.
Oh, really?
This tournament. If I heard that, I may heard that wrong, but I want to say these were his first goals scored. So what a time to break out, right?
Yeah, what a time to break them out. And, on the biggest stage that you're going to find, a couple of those goals, you remember the one Yannick kicked a long ball against Ohio State, and he just outran the defender, and the goalkeeper came up, and he made a nice move, had an open net, kept his composure, scored the lone goal. And then right here, Johnny on the spot with a rebound, kicking in that goal in the final. 2 really, really good goals.
And if you don't bring him up later on, and I do have to talk about Janik real quick. If no accolades as far as I'm aware, and I don't know if we're going to talk about him later on, but that Ohio State game, you had a goalie who had a clean sheet and an assist. The lone goal. So that's pretty crazy stats,
something you don't see very often.
Not very often.
Yeah.
So that's very impressive. And so I wanted to give him a shout out. There was both in the game against Ohio State and then the championship game, some incredible saves. I mean, that were 100% on him. That kept that ball from going in the goal. So big shout out to him. If we talk about him later, great. If not, I wanted to make sure he got a shout out because played 2 heck of two very well played games.
Yeah, and we will talk in Around the Herd more about soccer, but right now, number 2, Marshall women's basketball is 4th in the nation with 3-pointers made per game, sitting at 10.7. Now they just tipped off. It's right after 6:30 p.m. on Wednesday as we record this, and they're playing right now up in Cincinnati. Hopefully they can add to those 3-pointers per game, but 10.7 made per game. Pretty daggone good. Just want to give a little note here, though. Number 1 in the nation with 13 a game, Tennessee. So our coach that was here last year went down there. They're doing that lots of 3-pointers thing, but we're holding our own without her here.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and as we talked about last week, you've got a new coach, implementing a little bit of a new system.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to judge a season by the opening, right? So definitely had some close losses, things like that. But as if you can keep this percentage up, you can still rank in the top, 4, 3 points made. If that trend continues throughout the season, once we get to conference play, I think we'll be very competitive this year.
Yeah, definitely. And Meredith Mayer is leading the Marshall ladies with a little over 3, I think maybe even 3.7. Anyway, she's hitting quite a bit per game here to help us reach that number, be in the top 5 in the nation. Anytime you're top 5 in the nation, very good. Number 3, Marshall Swim and Dive. This one came at me, I don't know about you, but came out of nowhere. They will be leaving the Sun Belt and joining the AAC, that's the American Athletic Conference, as affiliates, and going with them is James Madison and Liberty. Now, we had 4 teams here in the Sun Belt, and those other 2 teams are going to the A-Sun Conference. That's ODU and Georgia Southern. So no more swimming and diving in the Sun Belt. It lasted 2 years.
So I first saw that tweet, and I'm not sure why, what all went on in the background. I just saw the tweet that said Marshall and JMU to the AAC, and I just had to do a double take on that one.
Yeah, make sure it was just swimming and diving and not
swimming and diving. I was like, what? Where'd this come from? But so that caught me by surprise too. So I don't know the inner workings behind there, but good to see them, moving to a conference. Hopefully that maintain, we can still be competitive. It works out better for us. than what we currently were doing.
Yeah, and so I did a little bit of digging on here. Just today, or maybe even yesterday, is when ODU and Georgia Southern were announced as going to the Atlantic Sun. But ODU men's swim and dive are already in that conference. So this just helps a little bit with them for travel. I don't know anything about Georgia Southern, but I reached out to our friends at the Monarchists over at ODU. Terrific podcast, by the way, terrific website, a lot of good coverage about Old Dominion. If you ever find us going up against them in any sport, they're an amazing resource. I can't shout those guys out enough. But they told me about the men's team being in that conference. This is going to help them with logistics and travel and all that sort of thing. And it just seems to make sense. So it seems to me that the Sun Belt was getting out of it because we only had 4 and maybe there wasn't enough interest from other programs within the Sun Belt to try to start. There was no affiliates willing to come over. So they decided to just split it up and let everybody go where there was more competition and things. That's just kind of the feel that I get.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially and you saw the same thing in the Sun Belt Conference with, the soccer program, right? Mm-hmm. So,
yeah.
We were able to pull in schools like, South Carolina and UCF and Kentucky into our conference that made better sense for that sport than, than for the other conference. So, that totally makes sense.
Yeah, I'm always for the Sun Belt adding more instead of losing, but
yeah.
It's hard. This is not one of those things that if you already don't have an adequate facility on your campus, this is something that's you can't just. It's not wrestling. You can't just throw some mats down. You got to have a good facility for swimming and diving. So it could have just been one of those things that they said, hey, we were wanting to do it. Not enough teams logistically to keep it up. You guys go this way, you guys go that way, and it'll help out everybody. Number 4, Bren Brown, Olivia Fogo, and Kinsey Schoenhart named to the CSC Academic All-District team. Not only did they have to have a 3.5 GPA, they had to have either played in 90% of their team's matches or 66% start of all the matches that the team were in. So have to get it done in the classroom, but also can't just be someone that rides the bench. So this is very hard to get, and we landed 3 on there. That's pretty good.
No, that's really good. As Katie would say, this is a differentiator, right? So
differentiator.
Channel my inner KD here, represent while he's not here. But absolutely, it's we've talked about this before, and I'll glaze over it quickly. It's a lot. I feel like sometimes we forget that these are student athletes, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's the student part of it,
right.
Not just the athlete side. So, these folks are, killing it in the classroom and then killing it in athletics as well. So I was good enough just to pass. So
I didn't do that. I didn't do that. So they've got me beat both ways. But we're constantly shouting out academic success here on this show, and it's not just because we put a priority on there. We can't make that stuff up. We have to report on it when it comes in, and it comes in so often. Every semester, we're getting accolades for our student athletes, and that just shows you the people over at the Buck, the people at the help program, and the athletes themselves. Everybody's putting in the work and doing a good job, because ultimately that's what these athletes are here for. They're not professional athletes. They're here to get a degree, and not all of these people are going to go pro. In fact, I love, if you ever watch any kind of ESPN Plus programming that's Sunbelt related, and they show that Sunbelt thing. I can't remember the numbers, but it says so many athletes or a certain percent are going to go pro in something that is not sports. And, it just kind of makes you focus in on, hey, they're here to get this, and they're getting advanced degrees, and they're getting it done in the classroom. All right, number 5. I thought this was pretty good, but I wish he would have gotten just one more. Chris Grassi picked up his 100th career win at Marshall with the semifinal win over Ohio State.
And that so many great things happened, right? 100th win for Grassy, winning against Ohio State, a lot of good things there. So I saw a post on Twitter. I think I've seen multiple posts on X saying, let's just build the statue already. All right?
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and do it. Now, you have a guy there in Coach Grassy that, he loves it here. He wants to be here, and he knew that he could build a championship level team here, which I think he might have been the only one that believed that whenever, he set out to do that. But, the results speak for themselves, right? Yeah. He's come in, he's recruited, he's won, he continues to win. And I think moving forward, it's, we're going to see continued success from him and his program. So big shout out to Coach Grassy on the job, extremely well done.
I thought it was really cool, too, when they were doing the interview. I don't know if you caught this because you were at the game, so I don't know if you saw this or not. But when the reporter stopped him and said, Coach, it's your 100th win, and he said, oh, at Marshall? And then he said, well, yeah, it had to be. He's like, he didn't realize it, but he said, my first win at Marshall was my 100th win. He had 99 at University of Charleston. So his first victory at Marshall was his 100th collegiate win as a head coach. And now in the short time that he's been here, he's now got his 100th at Marshall. So 199 career victories. The first win next year is going to be his 200th. And I think that's pretty cool.
That's very cool. And I'm just excited to see what the future holds for Marshall soccer. I think the trajectory is just upwards. So, real excited to have him here. Real excited to see what's going to happen in the future.
Now let's talk on number 6 about Mike Green. This could have been 30 things every Herd fan needs to know about Mike Green. And we'll just off the start say he has declared for the draft. He's predicted to go in the first round. I saw today even 25th overall to the Baltimore Ravens was one prognosticator said that he was going to do. But let's talk about some awards that Mike got this week. These are crazy. Mike Green is nearly everybody's All-American. He picks up first-team honors from the Walter Camp. It's the first position player to get that honor for Marshall since Randy Moss in 1997. Great company to be in. He got second-team honors from the Associated Press, American Football Coaches Association, and the Football Writers Association of America. Green was also named College Football Network's Edge Defender of the Year and Heroes G5 Defensive Player of the Year. He got first-team All-American for both of those organizations. He was not a consensus All-American. There were some places that did not have him on here, and to that I chalk it up to nothing more than the term that I hate, P4, but P4 bias. He had a better year than a lot of those guys. A lot of people thought so, and including Walter Camp, which is a huge accolade to get first team there. But he was left off of a couple of these other places and wasn't first team, wasn't even second team. But we're going to focus on the positive, the ones that he was on. How big is this for all these things that Mike Green won?
Well, it's a recognition of what the work he's put in and the work he's done and the results out on the field. So, again, I'm with you. I don't understand why he's not going to get, why some of these people overlooked him for these awards, kind of, the G5, P4 thing. But I mean, if he's a first round draft pick, I mean, that's I think that speaks for itself if that happens. So I think this is just, reinforcing what we all know as Herd fans is that we had a very special player in Mike Green, and he produced that on the field and, was a member of a really great season and a really great team. And, wish Mike the best, moving forward. I think he's going to continue to have a successful professional career. And, these awards just stack them up. I mean, just stack him up. He's well deserving of it for sure.
Yeah, what better thing can you say than to stack them up? I mean, think of we had all the different ones, and I can't remember them off the top of my head. But Jaden Harrison last year got quite a few on special teams for kick returning and things like that. And he was first team this, first team that, and we kept going through all the different ones. But this is one of those things that, in my opinion, even though there's only one kick returner, this is so much harder to get because just the sheer number of edge and defensive ends that you're going to go up against. And, those guys, let's face it, if you play at Texas or Ohio State or Oregon or one of those places, they're already going to look at you. If you get 6 sacks, they're going to say, "Oh, but look, he's at Ohio State." And for Mike Green to do this from Marshall just shows me what a crazy season he had here, and that he has everybody's attention.
Well, and then it also shows that you can come to Marshall and you can find success at the next level. You can get awards and accolades. These things, I mean, can be done here. And that just, speaks to Marshall's program and the brand of Marshall, and, just that we can continually crank out players that go to the next level and can also achieve, accolades and awards that are, Division I wide, not just G5. So, no, that's.
And I say this all the time. Every time you get an award like this has to help your recruiting, because just exactly what you said, the recruits coming here, both from the high school level or the transfer portal, can say at that level and at Marshall University, I can get recognized. I can go in the draft. I can get first team All-American. I can get all these different awards. So every single thing like this that happens, it is a huge, huge boost for us in recruiting. And how about when he goes there and people say, Marshall, I'm not familiar with them. So they go and look it up, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, now I know where that's at. It's always going to help in recruiting. And finally, let's talk more about awards for football players. We talked about Hero and CFN there. So number 7, J.J. Roberts was named to the second team for Hero's G5 All-American team. And Roberts and Josh Moten received honorable mention on the CFN All-American team. So not just Mike Green, but more people on that defense. Josh Moten was one of those guys, in my opinion, kind of went under the radar, but he had 5 picks. And that's with people not testing him a lot. Sometimes a defensive back doesn't get a lot of interceptions because they simply don't throw their way a lot. But big time awards, from my opinion, from J.J. Roberts, who I think was criminally underrated when you look at some of the things that he led from a safety and look at all those stats. If he put those up again at an Oregon or a Texas or an Ohio State, like we just said, he probably brings home some first team honors as well.
Well, and being able to watch, JJ play, and also Josh, but JJ had an eye for that for the ball, and it's just so you could see that he knew where to be most of the time. And how many times did a runner break out a big run, and who's there to stop that? Who's in that right place to get a tip on the ball in the end zone to prevent a winning touchdown drive. Things like that. He just he had a special eye for that you could see that definitely showed up in the stats, but sometimes didn't show up in the stats. It's just he definitely was a difference maker when he was on the field. And both those guys, I'm with you there, I think overlooked for sure.
We used to talk about J.J. Roberts when you had to get a stop, and it seems like he would be 10 yards away from the ball, and the guy's going for the first down marker, and he would come in seemingly like a missile, and just come in and open field tackle, solo tackle, and just lay the guy out and prevent them from getting the yards that they needed. And that's something that you think about as a safety, but when you start thinking about the number of tackles that he had, the number of solos, the number of tackles for loss, but leading the nation in ranking at his position to PFF, and also leading in passes defended in the nation. I think he did that through the bowl game. I know going into the bowl game, he was still leading that. So just criminally underrated, in my opinion. Well, that does it for this week's 7 things every Herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by Jed, right there with us, and Ignite Link. All right, Jed, we are going to now take it around the herd. Again, KD and I, later this week, we'll talk about some of the big news events from the week. But right now, we're going to tell you everything that happened last week and will happen this week. And now, Layer 1 Solutions, your experts in business connectivity infrastructure, takes you around the herd. We're going to start with swim and dive. They beat Florida International 179 to 121. That's the first time that we've ever won at Florida International, if I'm remembering that correctly. That meet was Monday. We won 11 of the 16 events and also got 10 second place finishes. So all you math wizards at home know that that adds up to more than 21, or 21 is more than 16. So that just goes to tell you in quite a few events, we were number 1 and number 2.
Both, yeah.
Yeah, and we had a crazy number of top 5 finishes.
So I did see that, what you're referring to. Yeah, it's the first time we've ever won at FIU. So that's hey, we'll take it. I mean, weren't we talking last week about swim and dive breaking records and
constantly? I mean, it's been every episode this week or this year that they've had meets, and for that week they've been picking up of the week for the Sun Belt. Sometimes sweeping, swimming and diving. They've been breaking records, and again, it doesn't matter who they're going up against if they're breaking program records or pool records or things like that. They're going up against themselves just as much as they are the rest of the field and the other team that they're going up against. And 179 to 121. All these results are over on herdzone.com. There's a good article over there that will wrap up everything and show you all the winners. We're not going to go over all 11 first place winners and their times. So go over to Herd Zone, find that article under swim and dive, and just put a little respect on what Ian Walsh is doing over there with that program, because, brother, every single meet, something big is going on. I can't wait till we get to the Sun Belt Conference Championships. I believe it's going down in February. And what a way to go out of the Sun Belt would be to win that conference. That's what I got my eye on.
Yep. Come out on top. That'll be a record that nobody else will be able to touch, right?
Yeah, that's right. We're going to go over to women's basketball. I was able to get to this game. This was the annual education day where all the local elementary schools go, and halftime performance every year is amazing. The energy from the crowd from these kids is amazing. And I actually had to I looked over at my daughter. I wasn't sitting obviously with the kids on my lunch break as I went to this game. And I look over and she's got her head down. She's holding her ears, kind of late in the game. I had to go, get her and take her out of the concourse. And the reason was it was so daggone loud. I don't know if it came through on the tweet that I put on about that from the game. And that was from the pregame introductions. But when they got this stuff that said "get loud" and put it up on the Jumbotron, that the kids knew their assignment.
Right.
And I talked to a lot of people. There was officially 3773 was the attendance. And we've had crowds over 5,000. We've had crowds over there pushing 9 before the Herd Heaven was shut down and things like that. And I cannot recall it ever being this loud. So I'm going to tell everybody listening, and then we're going to get back to these results. If these elementary school kids can do it, we can do it. We're there for men's basketball and women's basketball. We can get that loud. We can make a difference. And I think these kids willed the women's basketball team to a 78-76 victory. came down to the wire. Again, I had to miss most of the back and forth at the end while I was out on the concourse. And even out on the concourse, it was so loud, kind of had to walk out through a fire door to allow her eardrums to have a little bit of a break. But 78-76 victory on Friday. Got anything to say about that crowd and all that before we move on?
Well, to second what you're saying, having all those kids there, if they can be that loud, we should be able to be that loud. But it also is, when I have the opportunity, to bring my kids to these events, I think it's important, if you're a Herd fan, bring your kids, bring your grandkids, start that tradition with them. So get them used to going to games. So that way, when they're older and, hopefully still live around here, they're going to games, and that's something that they do to their kids, So, as a Marshall fan, we want to, make sure that we're perpetuating that, right? So, as we want to build future Herd fans. So,
Herd fans for life, man. I mean, think of these kids going to this game, and some of them, this may have been their first ever game that they went to. And then they're going to go and they're going to tell their cousins, they're going to tell their friends that were in different grades, and maybe their big brother or their little brother or big sister or little sister. They're going to tell their parents, and they're going to say, hey, I had a blast there. Can we go there? It's just so good that they do this every year. But I've got to give a shout out to the people that get this event put together, getting the crowd into it, planning the different things that they do. The kids were interested the entire time, because how easy would it be for them to just go over there and it be something that, oh, well, we're out of school. It's not. They were glued to the court the whole time. They were participating with the different songs that came on. Just a great job by our athletic department, and great job by the staff and faculty that were there to bring those kids and make it a good experience. All the kids were well behaved. You could tell everywhere. It was a great event all the way around.
And that's great that they do that. The first I knew of this was last year, and I actually had it on at I was at the office last year when that game was on, and we actually had it up on the big TV, and we were watching it and everything, and you could hear the crowd noise coming through. What a great, like you said, what a great event that they put on, and glad that they're doing this, and hopefully they continue. I have a feeling with the popularity and such a big deal that this has been, that they're going to continue this, and that's great. I'm really glad that they've done that, and genius of them, really, honestly, to do that, and special for those kids.
I can't imagine them getting rid of this event, or something they're going to have to schedule every year, because, I mean, seriously, that is just the energy. I mean, it's trying to think of the right adjective, but contagious, is a word that comes to mind. I felt myself getting into it because the crowd's into it. And, I threw together an article earlier this year, I think it was, maybe back in the spring, that was about the best game that I had ever been to at the CAM. And I interviewed different people that have been going for, since the CAM opened, and they had all these games. And a lot of them, it was the crowd energy, that they cited was they had been to games where it was a close score. They had been to games where it was a last second bucket that won. And this game here, 78-76. But the energy of the crowd bumped those up to all-time classics. So this is just crazy good event every year, and you're right, they're going to keep doing it. Let's talk about women's basketball, what they're doing right now. 4 minutes 56 seconds to go in the second quarter. So coming up, we're right at halfway through the second quarter. 22-18, Cincinnati is on top. Cincinnati comes into this game 7-2. Marshall's 4-5, but on a bit of a roll. I think they won 3 of their last 4 coming into this game. Right now, we are 3 of 11 from 3-point land, so we've got our work cut out to bump that 10.7 threes per game up. But hanging right with them, 22-18, and hopefully we can come out with a victory and big upset up there from the heavily favored Bobcats. All right, so men's basketball, they beat Ohio 79-70 on Saturday, and then against just nowhere near on their level, West Virginia Wesleyan on Monday, 93-63. Jed, I know you were gone on Monday. You were down at Cary watching the national championship game, and a lot of people were, but 93-63. I don't care who you're playing. You've still got to hit the shots. You still got to get the rebounds. You still got to do that. And they actually hit 30 assists in that game. I think that's the highest, I think Steve Cotton said, since 2016, I think is what he said. 30 assists in a game. Anytime you're doing that, you're doing something right.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're starting to see some chemistry starting with these guys. And you figured that was going to happen, right? You've got a lot of transfers in. You've got almost a whole new squad, really, from last year to this year. But you're starting to see some positive developments, I think, with the team chemistry and the rotations and things like that. So I think they're on a good trend, kind of getting ready to go into they're getting ready to go into conference play in their next game. What a good time to start trending up. So I'm cautiously hopeful that this trend continues as we go into conference.
Yeah. Marshall, in that Ohio game, it really, before halftime, they took the lead, and it just kind of stayed in that 8 to 10 point range there for the longest time, 6 to 10 points. And then it got a little bit close toward the end, and Marshall pulled away again. The other game, it took a little bit for Marshall to get going against Wesleyan. But, brother, once they did, they pulled out, let's see here if I can get they were up 20-12, then 29-16, and at halftime, 41-26, and it just got worse from there.
Yeah.
Marshall ended up hitting the shots that they needed to. Let's see here. From the field, they shot 55.2% and 40.6% from behind the arc. Michael Dawson led with 19 points, 5 for 9 from 3 points. Getting it done on the boards, 41 rebounds to 25. Again, going up against West Virginia Wesleyan, not the same level. Good to see them doing what they need to do, hit the field goals they need to do, the three-pointers they need to do. 10 assists by Dzane Mingo. Didn't see that earlier. Good to see him in the mix. Just an all-around good game. You need these games.
Yep, these are tune-up games, and also, if you can take care of business, you didn't struggle in this game. You learn a lot from these type of games too. So, all around good game to kind of get ready for conference play.
And we're going to finish it up talking about men's soccer. We've already talked a lot about it, but beat number 1 Ohio State in the semifinal of the College Cup 1-0 on Friday, and then lost in overtime to Vermont 2-1 in the national championship on Monday. Jed, you were there for both games. Let's hear a little bit about it.
Yeah. So what a great venue. First of all, I was looking at the stadium capacity is about 10,000 people for that Final Four game. So I was there for the end of the Vermont versus Denver game. So I saw that game went out to a penalty kicks.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how Vermont won. So it went in tied into 1-1 into the final. So I got to catch the end of that game. Stadium was electric. After that game, I went over behind the Marshall bench. That's where I was. Both games was behind the Marshall bench. And I saw people I knew from Huntington. I saw people that I knew that don't live in Huntington, but that live in different parts of the Carolinas and things like that travel in. We had a really, really good crowd against Ohio State. Way to win against them. Then we went. So I actually ended up coming back home and then drove back down Monday
Yeah.
and watched that game. So, and that crowd was even bigger. We definitely outnumbered their fans. We traveled extremely well. Soccer sometimes it's a brutal sport. And I always, and something I've always heard say, and I say it literally sometimes comes down to, not just metaphorically, but literally comes down to how the ball bounces.
Yeah.
Sometimes. And you've got to play the game perfect, and all it takes is one misstep, and then the other team capitalized, and that's what they did. I mean, kudos to Vermont.
Yeah.
I mean, they capitalized on the opportunities that they got and that they had, and they capitalized. A lot of times that's what we did. We the game against Ohio State, we capitalized. Some of the earlier games in the tournament that were close, we capitalized on those opportunities, those missteps that the other team had, and they did that to us, and they came out ahead. So great atmosphere, great turnout. Love watching those guys play. It just it hurts that we didn't get to bring home that national championship trophy.
One of the things that the announcers kept driving home, and it had graphics, and they were constantly talking about it. They called them the cardiac cats for the Catamounts for Vermont. That coming into that game, 15 of their goals on the season, and they didn't have a ton of goals. I think it was close to 50% of their goals were after the 82-minute mark in the games. And that's like they were right at it here. It was like the 81st minute or something when they scored that goal.
It's about 9. I looked at the clock. It just ticked into that 9 minutes left. And, again, mistouch is what it was. They capitalized on it and scored. So, but yeah, no, those guys, especially watching that game against Denver, I would have argued Denver was the better team just by watching the style and how they played. But Vermont, man, they were scrappy, and they a lot of drive, they willed themselves to win. So, I mean, first national championship in any sport that they've ever had. That sounds familiar. Unranked team and the unseeded team in the tournament sounds familiar.
Yeah.
But just we couldn't hold them off. But I have a feeling that won't be my last trip to a college cup. So
yeah, and I've never gotten to go. This time I had some pressing things that I had to do, and I stayed in Huntington for them, work related and more so. But I had time that I could have taken off from work and gone down there. And one of the things that prevented me from doing that, I stayed around for it, and it fell through. And by the time that it did fall through, I didn't have enough time to get down to Cary. And to say I was disappointed is an understatement. But
I was able to take my oldest daughter with me. My oldest daughter plays soccer. She's played for several years now, loves the sport. And so I was able to take her with me and, an experience. So I didn't get to go the first time we went to the College Cup down in Cary and won. And so I promised myself that if we win again, I wasn't going to miss it. So then I was able to bring my oldest with me. So she had a really good time too. Of course, disappointed, but I wasn't going to miss it this time. So it worked out that we were able to go. So.
Well, hey, Grassy won I think it took him 3 years to get there, and he won. And now twice in the last technically 5 seasons, I think it is, that we've been in the finals. And you mentioned it earlier. It seems like we're trending in the direction of becoming a blue blood in college men's soccer. And it just definitely seems like we'll be back there very soon.
And we didn't talk about this in the things, and I'm probably not going to be able to pull it up real quick, but we just get a signed transfer out, a new transfer in today, I think.
Yeah. We've got a lot of transfers, and we've got a lot of signees that KD and I are going to be talking about when we hit that episode. So I'll go ahead and tell you that does it for Around the Herd, and KD and I will be back here in a few days. He's actually very under the weather right now with COVID. I don't know how many people saw that, but we're going to be back shortly with another episode. But Jed, unless you have something to say, I'm going to take us out of here.
Yep, that does it for me.
All right. So whether you see us at the Joan, whether you see us at the Jack, whether you see me with Jed, or whether you see me with KD, no matter where you see us, we're always going to be saying, go herd. It's the ThunderCast, and we'll see you soon.
Go herd.